guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm coming at you with another DIY today. This was definitely a trial and error situation because this is the first time I have ever fully painted furniture. I'll take you through the entire process, tell you what went right, what went wrong. There were so many things that went wrong. And hopefully you'll learn a thing or two from all of the mistakes I made. Before we get started, if you could just click on that thumbs up button, if you are enjoying my DIY videos or plan on watching some more, I would really appreciate it and it would help me out a lot. Let's jump right into it. So starting off, I actually started searching on Facebook Marketplace, and boy did I not realize how addictive that could be. I have a confession to make. I'm addicted to Facebook Marketplace. You can find so many things on Facebook Marketplace, and for cheap. I'd been searching for some bedside tables for our bedroom, and then I found these. They weren't exactly what I was looking for, but they definitely gave me an idea. Something about the geometric pattern on the front, and also all the hardware and the details made me think mid-century modern. And for that, I knew I would have to switch out the legs for something a little bit more streamlined, and I'll leave some pictures around of what I was kind of imagining. And of course, you know your girl, so I had to bargain them down from $40 to $30. So I thought for two side tables, that was a steal. So I went and picked them up from someone's front porch, got lost on the way. Definitely had to do some serious vacuuming on this piece because there were cobwebs everywhere. It was gross. The next thing I did was I took some liquid TSP, mixed it in with some water, took a rag, and just really wiped down every surface on the inside, the outside, every corner as much as possible. When you're thrifting items like this, you definitely want to clean it properly. Especially during the times that we live in, you don't want to bring anything into your home that hasn't been properly sanitized. And just so you understand how disgusting these pieces were when I got them, two full white rags turned this color. Yum. What I did not realize, judging by the pictures on Facebook Marketplace, was that the top pieces of these side tables were actually marble, and they were just sitting on top of these ledges on the inside. They were not fastened at all. So I have a clip of what happened to those marble pieces. I think that I'm gonna have to get rid of this weird marble top thing that's going on. It's like a fake top. You can actually just completely take it off like that. And I think I'm going to get rid of it because, first of all, it's gross and yellowed over the years, and also I just happened to break the second one for my second table. So that's lovely. So that was mistake number one. I knew I had to replace the marble, and I figured the easiest, cheapest thing I could do was just replace it with some plywood. After cleaning everything up, I decided to chop off those legs first thing. They were way too bulky and they were outdated, and I was just gonna replace them with some more streamlined furniture legs. Here comes mistake number two, because I thought I could just chop off the legs with a plain old hacksaw. We'll roll the clip to see how that went. Whoa! Great. Thankfully, my friend saved the day because he had a circular saw. Showed me how to cut off the legs, and I was on my way. After I'd cut the legs off with the circular saw, I realized I probably need some sort of tool to do that myself because I wasn't done cutting the furniture legs off completely. There were a couple pieces I still wanted to chop off, and I was not going back to using that hacksaw. So I actually ended up investing in a jigsaw. You can see me trying to be an intelligent tool owner here because I read all the instructions, looked through it all, and then I went ahead and started chopping off the extra bits of the legs. And here comes the next mistake, because while I was experimenting with that jigsaw, I definitely cut off too much on a couple different areas of my table. You know what? I'm glad that happened, because had that not happened, I would not have discovered my wood filling putty. Basically, it's just this substance that has a bunch of wood shavings in it and some sort of glue, and you just shove it into the holes, that's what she said, and let it dry, and then you can sand off the excess, and it looks like nothing ever happened. So the indents I accidentally made were pretty big, so I definitely had to go back in with plenty of layers of that wood filler and sand off all the excess before I could do anything else. Look at that perfect corner. I fixed my mess up. Finally, I got down to sanding the entire piece, and this is where I made my next mistake. I 100% did not sand enough. I thought that if I sanded too much, it would sand off some of the shape of the furniture, or maybe like the pattern on the front, I would sand that off and that would be a disaster. Well, the lesson learned here was that the more you sand off, the better your paint will actually adhere to your piece. And the more professionally done it'll look in the end. So if you're doing this at home, don't be afraid, like I was, just to take a hand sander, take maybe like a 200 grit, or maybe a little bit lower, and just go at all the surfaces that you really can and grind away all the varnish and the old wood stain. So for the overall color scheme that I decided on, I went with a charcoal gray chalk as the overall color and then an antique gold color for the hardware and the accents. Because I was only ever used to using spray paint on furniture, I figured that would be the easiest way to do it. I thought it would take less time, be less expensive, overall a better choice. I was dead wrong. I ended up using so many cans of spray paint. It was ridiculous. Next time, I'm just gonna go with paint and get all the rollers and paintbrushes that I would need to. I 100% know that it would have costed me less just to invest in the roller, the paintbrushes, and the can of paint to begin with. So first up, I used a primer spray paint. You don't really need this primer spray paint, but because I didn't sand enough, I'm glad I used it because it definitely helped the paint stick on more than if I hadn't used it. I did about 2 to 3 coats of this primer on every surface. Next up, I used my charcoal chalk spray paint and did about 3 coats of this, again on every surface. And to finish it off, I used a polyurethane spray paint and did about 2 coats. So at this point, the furniture legs I ordered online at Home Depot also came in. So what I did with that is I painted the top part gray and the metal parts at the bottom gold, just to match the hardware that I was going to also spray paint gold, which you'll see here. So in the process of me trying to paint the bottom of the furniture legs gold and then the tops of the furniture legs gray, I made another mistake, which was not waiting long enough for the gold to dry. I started taping off the bottoms of the legs in order to spray paint the top gold and not get any on the bottom, and you'll see what happened when I took the tape off. It was just a little smudged, but you know what? At that point, I was over it, and I thought, hey, maybe the bottom of the legs will just look like a cool pattern, and that I intentionally made it look like that. Next step was to fill the gaping holes that the marble that I broke had left behind. I basically picked up the cheapest plywood I could find at Home Depot. I had them cut it there, because they do that, pro tip. And I went ahead, sanded those down, and then I did the same primer, spray paint, protectant situation to those two plywood pieces as well. Next up, I really wanted another gold accent somewhere on the piece, so I decided I would put it along the inner edge of where that plywood would actually be sitting. All I did for that was use that gold colored spray paint. I filled up a little cup with it, used a paintbrush, and then I just painted along the edges. I definitely did about 2 to 3 coats of that. I didn't record this part, but what I ended up doing was using painter's tape to stick onto the edges so that I didn't get paint anywhere it wasn't supposed to be. Next up, all I did to attach the plywood pieces to the insides of the end tables was use wood glue. Wood glue is actually super sturdy, and so all I did was paint the bottoms of the plywood and then the insides of where there were little ledges to rest the plywood. Used an even layer of wood glue on everything, set the plywood right on top, set a couple weights on top just to let it dry for a little bit, and then waited until the next day before I did anything else with it. I knew I wanted to do something a little extra special on the insides of the drawers. I hadn't covered up the inside of the drawers at all when I was spray painting, so there was definitely splatters of spray paint on the inside, and the wood itself was just not that great, and it looked really old. I got a bunch of rolls of contact paper of all different patterns just to potentially use around the apartment. One of them was actually in this gray, purple, blue, and gold pattern, and I thought it would be perfect to line the insides of the drawers with. Contact paper itself has a sticky back, so technically you should be able to stick it onto the drawer itself, but what I noticed was that as soon as I did that, some of the edges and the corners were already starting to peel up. So to fix that, I actually used Mod Podge, and I applied it to the insides of the drawers and then the back of the contact paper for an extra level of security. And finally, to attach the furniture legs to the piece, technically with those types of furniture legs that have a screw on top, you're supposed to use this metal plate that actually has the leg screw into it, and you're supposed to attach the metal plate to whatever furniture piece you want. I'll show you like a picture of what I mean. The problem for me though is that those metal plates are way too big for my furniture piece. It would not fit properly. I would not be able to screw it in securely. So all I did was I screwed some holes at the corners of my pieces where the legs were going to go, big enough so that the screw on the furniture leg would slide in properly, and then I just started screwing in the furniture legs to that hole itself, and it worked out perfectly fine. I do plan on selling this piece because although it came out really well, it's just not my style. I feel like it's a little too glam for me. So I'm hoping it goes to a home that really appreciates that kind of style. Hit me up if you're interested. So depending on where these end up and whether I'm going to have to unscrew the furniture legs to ship them somewhere, I might end up putting some wood glue on the tops of the furniture legs and then securing them again to the end tables so that they're just a little bit more secure, more stable for whoever gets them and uses them. So all in all, I realized the cost of the spray paint cans that I used all together ended up being way more than had I just gotten a can of paint, some rollers, and a paintbrush, and just went with that. So definitely learn from my mistakes. If you are trying to upcycle a bigger furniture piece like I was, just go with paint. If it's only for like a small piece here or there or a touch-up, spray paint works perfectly fine. But this was my biggest mistake during this experiment. I do think that this piece came out fantastic. It looks beautiful, and it's definitely an upcycle from where it was before. These are my spray paint battle wounds that I have to show for all the work I did. Thanks so much for watching, you guys. I really appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed all of my fails and some of my wins. And if nothing else, I hope this sparks an idea for you on what you could do yourself. Because trust me, if I can do it with little to no skill, I know you can too. Please leave a comment below on what your favorite part of this DIY was. For me, it was definitely the drawer lining. It's kind of like a hidden surprise when you open up the drawer. If you haven't already, don't forget to click that subscribe button because I am sure to bring you more DIYs, more home decorating videos, maybe even some fashion or beauty videos mixed in there. And on that note, I'll see you guys here on my next DIY.